Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Nexus podcast. I'm your co-host M2 Dave, and as always, I'm here with my co-host King Jr., aka Burrito Voorhees.
Hey, what's going on? Back with another episode, and I'm very excited for today's guest. And you'll find out who it is in just a second. But let's just say we have a lot in common throughout the games we played in NRS history.
That's correct. So we have I don't know, a man who doesn't really need a long introduction, in my humble opinion. The results really speak for themselves. So he's the highest ranked U.S. player aside from Sonic Fox. He is one of the best modern NRS players, one of the best defensive players, easily. He is obviously very talented. The sweetheart of the NRS community, a guy who can really do no wrong. Everybody respects him. No controversy. Incredibly professional. Again, the sweetheart of the community. Please welcome Gurr.
Yo, what's up, guys? Hello, hello. Thank you for
Yes,
having me.
yeah, dude. Thank you so much for being here with us while recording this tonight. So I just want to give the audience, just a heads up. I'm sorry if I sound a bit different and I'm a little bit off. Like I've been sick and dealing with some allergies. In the Midwest of the United States, we have the weather changing drastically, and especially in Ohio, certain people are struggling with allergies. I'm one of them included. So I apologize if I'm like, sometimes blurring speech. It's just been a bit, it's been a strange time for me. But anyway, I do obviously want to focus on Gur. Just tell us how you've been, man. I know you've been traveling. You've been placing very well. Going to talk about your trips that you've been making and whether you're satisfied with your performance thus far.
Yeah, man. I've been good to be honest. I mean, just the past few years, I've just been working, just full time, and just been doing like the tournaments on the side. Obviously, I don't play online as much as I used to, but on the weekends, I try to come out to these events so I can do see how I do at this state of the game. And I think what really pushed me to just make this like go to all these trips is the fact that the season two of the pro comp, we just have so many offline tours and we haven't had something like that, at least something like solid. Because I know we had season one of the pro competition, but season two having like 10 stops is something we didn't really have, since like the season one of MK11. So I'm like, I have like I don't have a sponsor anymore, so I'm like, all right, I have all these savings. I want to see how I do now. I almost you know did well in the LCQ. I got second, so I didn't I wasn't there, but I'm like, okay, now I have a chance. So let's see if I can push myself to at least try to qualify. But it's been great, man. It's been awesome going to all these different places I've never been before and meeting new people once again. It's just been an incredible experience that I'm pretty happy to do.
What do you think has been your favorite, not necessarily tournament, because I know
Hmm.
you were in Mexico. Is that correct? You were also to Spain. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, um,
Um,
I picked a favorite, but
Mexico. Yeah,
yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna ask you like, what's your, not necessarily tournament wise, what was like cause you've been traveling a lot. I kind of everybody wish they could do that. Like, what was your kind of your favorite place, and maybe not necessarily tournament wise, some of the stuff that you have seen.
Oh, like travel wise, I think Austria is definitely up there. I think the city's just really beautiful, and it's the transit system's nice. It's like you just see architecture you just don't see. When you live in New York, you just kind of get used to how all the buildings look, but just in Europe, just Europe in general, it's just so different. And it was nice to have a nice day to just go around, see what's there. Got a few souvenirs. Austria is definitely up there for my favorite. I admittedly I wish I didn't have the chance to travel as much for places like Brazil. since I was it was more mostly focused on the tournament, which is kind of the tough thing to balance when I'm traveling to this weekend to these events is like, all right, do I have free time to go out and then do check out some places I want to go? Because I also want to grind a lot of offline games because I don't frequently get them. Thankfully, I have a local back home, but it's not the same as like playing a really good player from EU, without like 100 ping online. So it's that's the challenge for me is to find, the time to explore. But so far, Vienna was really beautiful, and I definitely won't forget that trip. And this weekend I'm going to Brussels or Belgium, well, to for Brussels. So we'll see if I'm able to, if that tops that of places that I really enjoy, that exploring.
Yeah, man, it's funny that you mentioned that because I am from Europe. I spent a lot of time in Germany, and obviously now I live in the United States. And when I first moved over here, I'm like, why the hell is everything so different? But then after like 25 years of being here, I went back. I'm like, why is everything so different over there?
Yeah, exactly. It's just so different. I'm just like, wow,
Yeah,
it's
no,
just
it's just
nice. It's
it's
nice.
all the buildings are more like old school. It has a lot of history, obviously, because Europe is a lot older than the United States. So yeah, it's
Right.
just nice to. Obviously, we all kind of live our own bubble, but it's nice to go out and see if you can obviously afford it, which is an issue for a lot of people nowadays with with the high cost traveling expenses.
Yes.
Yeah, if you can go out, man, it's just good to see different stuff, different people, and see how they live, if you have a chance. So
Yeah, and you just get adjusted. You just get adjusted to the time zone change as well, because that is also a challenge if you're traveling overseas for many hours. Keep myself up, just try not to get jet lagged. So I definitely prepare days in advance. And then, part of that exploring is okay, it gets me off the bed so I don't fall asleep, and I'm able to just regulate my body clock so I can be, just have a good head when I play in tournament.
yeah, man. I mean, not to mention a different continent. Even I don't know if you live in New York, we're in Ohio. If you travel, even like to the West Coast, right? That just the 3 hour difference can kind of still mess you up, and you know, just just mess with your regular routine, and it just people. That's why when people travel, even though you have good results, obviously in your case, but sometimes maybe you don't do well, but we still give high level players credit because remember you have to get out your butt, you have to go and you have to travel, and it can be stressful. Maybe your flight gets delayed, so
Oh
that's why
yeah.
offline is still there's still a different beast than online tournaments because it's just we give people credit for traveling and because it's not easy, obviously it's expensive and it's stressful,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it always has its own, it has its set of challenges that no one just talks about, because not again not a lot of people do it. Like, unless you have a sponsor, you have to put in your own money, and you have to plan out your events. Like, where are you going to be staying? Where are you going to be flying? Can you even fly? Do you have the time off? All those things can make it kind of hard to do it. Um, I don't blame, like, I'm not gonna blame people for not coming to these big events, because it is, it can be tough, and like you mentioned, flights do get canceled. I mean, I remember Mr. Aquaman, he wanted to go to Vienna, like that was his dream like event, and his flights just straight up got canceled and just made it insanely difficult to just get over there. And thankfully, fingers crossed, I haven't run into that issue yet. I've always looked for non-stop flights, because point A to point B, no issues in between for me. So, but it's going through the challenge, and you got to be focused in a tournament as well. All that combined is just, it can definitely be tough. But for me it's worth it. I feel like it's at this point it's worth it for me, because I'm enjoying the game, and I'm enjoying competing in the game, and I'm doing well. So I'm like, okay, let's just keep going.
yeah. Well, let me ask you before we get into the nitty gritty, talk about the gameplay. What are the chances you may get sponsored?
Um, to be honest, I'm yeah. To be honest, since my old team Dynamic Focus, unfortunately, the owner, passed away, and I I fell out of the team from that because she was the team, Aziza, and also a friend of mine as well. It's been tough after that, and to be honest, I just haven't been looking. I have gotten some offers from people, but for me, it's just not really to like I said, I'm just using my savings from money, and I'm just focusing on going to tournaments and playing. If by chance I see something that I, really like in terms of an offer, I'll look into it. But I'm not really looking too much at the moment because right now I can afford going to the tournaments. Um, and I found something that works for me for now. If I really can't put money into it, I won't, but because I have all this saved up, it just works for me. So right now I don't really need to find a sponsor at the moment, but it could change in the future. But right now it's not really my focus.
Yeah, a lot of the players in Streets Fighter and Tekken, not obviously all of them, but like the best of the best, they're essentially all sponsored, and the playing field has kind of changed from, I guess, what I like to call, the casual competitive players now who kind of are retired like me, because obviously I'm getting older, and it's difficult to compete, with these games now that, online is massively improved. You have all these young players coming in and playing, right? It's not really easy to keep up with that, because players, in my humble opinion, are better than ever. It's more difficult than ever to place, just because people now have the resources, whether it's just the information online or just the online gameplay. If you're young and you grind, you're gonna get better. I mean, you're not gonna get worse, right?
That's definitely true. Yep.
Yeah. So all the tools, yeah. Back in the day when we played Mortal Kombat 9, I was honestly only like scared of 8 people, and everybody else, with all due respect, I just didn't respect, right? Because I know they didn't know how to play the game. They couldn't play the game because there was no local scene, right? Or they didn't have one. So it's just it's just a different atmosphere now, and I do believe, again, with all due respect to the older generation, that not, like, I think everybody's equally talented. It's just that people have more resources now, and it's a lot more difficult to place, I would say, overall. Would you agree with that, or am I exaggerating?
Um, in terms of difficult to play, I will. I mean, it is challenging. It's definitely a lot more challenging because if you look at the good players that you're seeing right now online, like Groxer, Christian Buxexo in Brazil, like these are young players and they're like going like they're doing like so well. I mean, I'm trying to remember his the guy who beat Sonic. I don't want to mispronounce his name. I think Mutsu. I think I don't want to mispronounce his name, but he's like I believe he's fairly young too. He might be like 17 or 18. I also could be wrong, but like these are so many young players that are like doing so well. I want to say it's like if you're keeping up like right now. I'm in my late 20s, so I've been playing. I wasn't good when I was playing Injustice One. I was like I was new to the scene. I wasn't good. I wasn't really I wasn't grinding productively. I was just playing the game. But but now I think there's groups of people trying to get better. It's definitely a lot different than it is back then. But I think if you find a solid group of people to play and grind with, it's not as hard as it may seems, in my opinion. At least from the lens of someone who's watched the scene change just from my experience of playing for these generations of NRS titles.
Yeah, let me ask you, then I'll let Franco jump in. I want to ask you, and obviously we try to keep it reasonable. I'm trying to be respectful of everybody,
Hmm.
time, because it's a weekday. So let me ask you about, just like before we get into the gears, which I'm sure we're going to discuss in a lengthy fashion. What do you think about the game itself? Because not so much recently, but the first year the game was super controversial. Everybody was kind of
Oh
trashing
yeah.
it. I think the game kind of deserved it. But now, I don't want to say, I saw it coming, but I could kind of see a trend that the game was improving. They nerfed, like, I would say, like the brain dead stuff, like Cyrax and the
Hmm.
rated stuff, right? But they buffed a lot of the cameos, they buffed a lot of the characters, and just like visually speaking, not even competitively speaking, the game seems like very fun to watch. It's very fun to play. I'm sure you agree, right?
Yeah, I think this game has come a long way from year one. I feel like, if those who've started and still playing, I feel like know how true that is because, I played. I remember how I felt playing year one with Cyrax and Raiden. I'm just like, I don't know, I don't know if I can keep playing this because I'm just like, I traveled. This is the year one of it. What do you call it? Pro comp. I went travel. Overseas to go to Paris, and then I just fight like in my winter's pack. I just fight Raiden, like Raiden Cyrax, and I'm just or Raiden Kano, and it's like this is a little frustrating just to just deal with. And this is back then when before Garrus had buffs, so it wasn't like for me. It's like okay, I don't know if I'm enjoying this as much, and I'm glad it was addressed. I do think again this game came a long way into at least fleshing out a lot of the characters and cameos. Of course, there's always going to be something top tier and people something people don't agree with. But I think if we're comparing now to back then, this game is incredible because it's like I never thought, and I feel like you can see the diversity in the cast too. Yes, of course you're gonna have the top tiers, but it's like it's not a frustrating for me at least. It's not as frustrating as when I first played with the meta because it really is. Tanya Goro, despite her state in right now, she was such a problem that it was just for me, it was just not fun to fight against at all because the default answers to for almost everything was armor Goro, and it's like how do you really fight against that? Because the way it's designed is just not. It just doesn't make it fun to play against. Plus on block, launches on hit, and it's like okay, now I just gotta wait this mix up, and then she gets her resource back, and it's just not. It's again the flow of it is just not as good as it now. Um, But then all to say is the game has come a long way. I'm so disappointed in the casual side of things because when I play my NRS games, I do like to be a casual on the side. I will say it's very disappointing in that aspect. I've never grinded it less in an NRS game than like this game. Invasions is not fun for me, and Garrus has like no skins, and he's the only character I play. Which really sucks. Like if you don't play a popular character like Melina, Johnny, or Scorpion, even that you're not gonna really get as much skin love. They gave him a skin finally, but I wish they put more content on the casual side, or make it at least more enjoyable. But they're in the right direction, so I'm just gonna not fault them for that. And right now I'm focusing on the competitive aspect. So the game's doing well in that regard, and I hope they just keep going in that direction of, quality of life changes. That's what I kind of want.
Maybe we can discuss, what we would like to see in the next patch. And people are speculating something's gonna come out this week, but we haven't heard anything. So who knows, if anything is going to be released. Not to mention, additional DLC. So we'll probably save that toward the very end. But before I let Franco jump in, I want to ask one more general question before we get into gears. So obviously, you're easily one of the best defensive players, and um, in my humble opinion, I think the game has a defense issue. Um, I know Sector obviously has won recently, and I was happy to see that. So for me, it's not some kind of personal argument. Oh, I was right. All of you were wrong. I'm not in that camp anymore. Too old for the gotchas. But when I see stuff like Cyrax, and when I see stuff like T1000, or to a lesser extent, the Havoc stuff, and to a lesser extent, I know Sindel got nerfed, like that stuff. To me, the game feels hyper aggressive. Um, and you're one of the few people, you can argue Sector, you can argue, Gearus is more of a defensive like character. Do you feel like you're at a disadvantage when you play a lot of these matchups? Do you feel like you're at a disadvantage in the way that you like to play in this game?
Honestly, it really depends on the match. The thing is, this even if I feel I can't play, okay, my lane game, I always have something in my disposal, which is the clone. And honestly, that's really kind of like the biggest wild card that Garrus have, that he can at least compete with the top tier given the right situation. It's just he gets an opportunity to create his own mix up that's very hard to defend against. And I feel like with that, I'm like, okay, at least I have some sort of win condition that I can set up if I play this matchup correctly. Of course, it's not gonna make some matchups easier. It's more of like, if you find the right opportunity, the the win is still there. The comeback is still there, and I can at least adjust to what the matchup requires me to do. Um, and of course, ideally, if there's matchups I can just run away all game, I'm good. But I what I like about Garrus is that he at least allows for a more flexible playstyle. If but in my opinion, only for with Mataro. I don't feel that way with other cameos. It's a little harder to play in those matchups with those other cameos. I do think Mataro just puts him so far above the where he can just, okay, I can be hyper aggressive, plus 13, corner you, and now you're gonna have to guess either two loops, or between overhead, lows, or a command grab. And if I have two bars, you're guessing a mix into a full combo. It's like, or I can just play super lame, do overhead, go full screen, charge full screen. Now I have one of the best neutral tools in the game. Catch you, you can't whiff anything. And I feel like those things combined, I feel like makes him kind of well rounded. Of course, he has some really bad weaknesses, but it doesn't hurt me as a defensive player, because if I get the life lead and you got to go in, now it's real tough, especially when it's counting down and I have two more tower teleports. So it's really more of like, can I put the situation in my favor? It's really who can get their game going first. Is the way I see it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, King Junior, go ahead and jump in. You can ask whatever you like as well. The transition one to a gear situation, which I know you want to discuss with Gur. So feel free
Yeah,
to jump, and we'll just take it from there.
yeah, you had me waiting very patiently. Like, I was waiting for the opportunity to say some shit, but uh, yeah, obviously, I aspire to your like play style as far as the runaway goes. I'm still like trying to implement it because like I feel like I got the offense down, assuming I don't drop like the sand clone setups. But like there's still some matchups where I feel like if you can't run away, like you're left with sand clone as a win condition, like you said, and like matchups like 1200 HP Shao Kahn Tremor like become difficult, and like I feel like Scorpion can be difficult and stuff, but I've been trying to implement like more runaway in my game and trying to like low tail and neutral a bit, like just to keep that safe distance if assuming I can run away in the matchup I'm playing in or something. Um, but yeah, pretty much everything else you said I agree with. Like, I think Motaro is also by far Garrus's best cameo. Like, you get poke special confirms with teleport. You get meterless freeze combos, which you save a bit of meter. You can build hourglasses meterlessly if you have full cameo bar with Motaro. And plus 13 low shot pressure is nice. So, uh, yeah, Motaro is like by far his best cameo in my opinion still to this day.
No gap. Like, a lot of characters can't say that. Jailing into tail shot is so significant. It's like you realize you don't know how strong it is until you see like other characters do it and they get armored. It's like it's insanely good. And being able to do it with his low as well, it just sets up so much, like so many mind games, and be able to do it on a set play as well when they're on the ground, and you just do a tail shot, and it's more plus the further it travels. So if you get them to the corner, it's like they can barely move against you, and I just think it's so strong. I do I'm worried that they might nerf it because of how strong Sector Motaro is. A lot of people do not like the far TP being half a bar. Well, I mean, in my opinion, I think because it has a longer cooldown, it's fine. And I generally don't. I don't like seeing cameos get nerfed because well, a team is strong with it. It's just the same. Like I don't think Pharaoh should be nerfed because Homelander is strong with it. I don't think that's fair to other characters that can use that cameo. So that's I'm they might be a patch tomorrow. A lot of speculation. I do think there's going to be more content for this game. It does look a little hopeful. From the few months before we had the pro comp announced, it was very bleak. But I do feel hopeful. But we'll see what they'll do. I just hope Motaro doesn't get affected because
Uh,
I feel like he's just so good at Garrus, and I think their focus should be on really other cameos that don't get a lot of play.
yeah, I feel like Motaro should be like the standard example for like other cameos, like summon cameos, because like you have like Sub Zero's cold shoulder that's like got it's like -2 I think with pushback and has traditional standard cooldown time, which I think is like 10 seconds, maybe 7 seconds, and like you have Motaro, his is a low. It's it might be the same frame startup, but it's +13, faster cooldown. Like a lot more summons need to have like that strong of properties because like mostly ambushes are the way to go. Like you have Movado with combo extensions, the landmine for defense and offense. You have Pharah that allows you to do all these style ambushes depending on the character you use. So like mostly ambush is the better way to go for most characters, but like Garrus is like the exception with Motaro because Motaro is best synergized with Garrus, and it's like the only ambush Motaro has is the teleport, and then you see his low shot mostly like more than anything probably because of just the cooldown
It's
and how
cooldown
strong
so
it
good.
is. So like I feel like most summons should have like those properties like that way they would be closer in power to ambushes.
I agree. At least something that sets them apart from each other. Um, I do feel like Sub Zero, yeah, the cold shoulder, like you only see it if you do the ambush, and which is a good option to have, but just like cold shoulder being just super regular, I do think there should be more unique traits from some of the cameos to give them that slight edge. I mean, Sector, like we already know about Sector and what sets Sector apart, and I feel like Sector, despite not seeing as much play as it used to be, um, still be kind of unique in its own way, and it's still pretty strong.
Yeah, and I think like you know how pre-patch Lao cameo spin used to launch on reversal.
Yep,
Like I think more summons should have those kind of properties. Like more of them should launch, in my opinion, because the risk reward for doing a reversal summon is just not worth it at all. Like Sonya leg grab is real slow and it knocks down, yet it's like 28 frames, 26 frames or something. Um, and I think that would kind of help with the hyper offense too, if there was more summon reversals and like not all of them have to launch, but like some should launch and be super unsafe on block, and some maybe should be safe but not launch or something, and maybe cost a full cameo bar if it's like uses a get off me, um, and that kind of separates summons from ambushes because ambushes really can't exploit those gaps like unless maybe like depending on the situation if you use Jack's gotcha grab, um, which is weird that it makes some things unsafe when it normally is would be safe. But usually you can't call in an ambush to exploit a gap. There's like very few scenarios I could think of where an ambush can do that like a summon can. But with a summon, it's like what much more flexible than if an ambush could do it. Like I think somebody during the Cyrax meta or something, um, I think maybe Aziz posted it. You could call your ambush in at a certain point to where Cyrax wouldn't jail or whatever character wouldn't jail, and then you would actually avoid the pressure, and then so on. You can exploit the gap, but yeah, what I'm getting at is more summons should be able to do that because I think it would bridge the gap between summons and ambushes more and make them closer in line together.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, well, I mean, we'll see how strong ambushes are with Tremor. I think I think what they, to be honest, like Tremor is definitely controversial because I mean everyone's running it and the health HP is definitely has to be addressed. But I think what that change character got really proves like small those adjustments can mean a world of a difference for the main cast. I remember exact labbing Tremor. I'm like, okay, let me see if I can make this safe. Tremor, ambush into rock. He does I do the 4-3. He does the flex, and then he does the move. And I'm like, okay, this does not feel good at all. Not only is the input awkward, but there's no, it's not safe. Like they'll just hit Tremor out and then punish me. But now I'm able to use those cancel windows to actually add more combo opportunities and to make him safe with like 4-3 and stuff. And I'm like, that's I don't know. It's just those changes. Okay, now Tremor's actually a fun cameo to use now. Just that one change made him so much better. And of course, he definitely has to at least be tuned down at least maybe 50 HP less. But the fact that they're able to buff him with this cancel window really proves, and then everyone's using him. Like a lot of characters are using it now. But he's not only more fun to use, but now he's able to bring more creativity to a lot of these characters. I mean, in Brazil they have a Homelander Tremor now. That's actually their meta, but believe it or not, that's their regular meta is Homelander Tremor. And who in NA plays that? Nobody. And it's like it really tells you how different, not only how different the regions are from sort of the teams, but like how much that buff changed the meta for the better, in my opinion. Because we definitely need a little more options for the main cast, at least, and for other against other like strong picks.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I'm more on the side of Tremor's buffs did better than worse. Like, my least favorite meta was when Chameleon ignored hit advantage. That was my least favorite meta. I didn't mind Cyrax so much, but yeah, pre-patch Chameleon was my least favorite. I think Tremor was just literally used for ground pound for a few characters when he first released, like Reiko and maybe Sindel if people weren't using Kung Lao for whatever reason. But um, I think all they should do, maybe lower the health value and slow down the ground pound cooldown, maybe. But that's all I would do as far as nerfs go. And I would make his other summon moves like that are on the weaker side, like nobody's using raw crystal wall. Nobody's using it as a reflect, like absorbed, a
Yep.
projectile absorber reflect. It's way too slow. It's got shitty cooldown. So like you're mainly using Tremor for the ambushes, but obviously the only one I would look at is like the cooldown on ground pound maybe, and like buff the summon versions of the other moves that don't get used as much. And like the interactable move is it's very niche and situational. I don't think it changes much about Tremor whether he has it or not. Nobody's really using it.
Yeah, I'm glad actually they added a move to just complete the tremor moves because they all have an up command except for Crystal. So I'm glad they added that. It's not crazy, but I have seen some cool stuff with it. But and I feel like, it's a good addition. Like we should have more of that. Not only for cameos, but the main cast as well. The only thing, oh, I actually forgot. They definitely should nerf the calling the ambush, tremor ambush, while you're getting hit. I think we've already, they've proven that they've moved away from cameos, giving a benefit while you're getting hit or punished. And I think this comes in line with that as well, and should be, along the lines of like other cameos, like cameo. I'm sorry, chameleon, because cameos they shouldn't work if you're while you're getting hit. It doesn't you know it's been proven that no one likes when it's behaving like that, and I that's the only thing I think should be addressed. Honestly, out of everything, I think that's the only thing that should be really addressed is tremor acting on its own while you're getting hit.
I want to say something controversial. I know you guys may disagree, but again, the way I look at the game, if you fundamentally look at, like if you're on the defensive side, again, like you said, I think Guru said it perfect. It's not. I'm not saying defense is overall weak or zoning is weak, because you can see people winning. Obviously Sector just won. You're very strong with Gears. You get great results. You play a versatile game. Sometimes you're defensive, sometimes you're defensive, depending on the matchup. But just in general, I think you would agree. Like if I do an armor move and it gets blocked, generally speaking, right? I could literally die, right? Like it could be over. And if I hit it, with most characters you got it like what, 12, 15? If you're lucky, maybe you get to launch, right? So the risk reward is really, really bad for the most part. I think the game, not too much. I like Kung Lao's design. He has a safe armor with 2 bars. I do like that. I don't think it's scrubby like it used to be with Goro, right? Where you can just spam it all over again. I think Tanya needs a redesign. I think she should have safe armor. It shouldn't launch. She should have it with, if she charges her seeking guidance and she uses a bar, I think armor should be -2, just like Kung Lao. I think that's gonna make her a lot better because she's obviously designed to play around armor because her damage is low. She doesn't really have the best mix-ups. They nerfed her forward too, right? They made it 16 instead of 14. So if you look at her nerf, she didn't even get nerfed that much just because of the armor.
Oh yeah.
Like she dropped like four. Yeah, she dropped like
That
14 or
was literally the character. That was the character. It was because
yeah,
of that alone. Like she
exactly.
definitely needs a rework. I do think she's the worst character in the game right now.
No, I agree. So obviously, we just told people armor, armor, armor. Like that. It was too oppressive, right? But I do think she should, have some. She should. Her gameplay should revolve around the armor. It just needs to be less brain dead. It needs to be more involved. And I think if she can charge her seeking guidance, use the bar again. I don't think you should launch. Maybe increase the damage. You may have to do a couple of stuff. That will make her a lot more unique. Because it would require resources, kind of like Geras, right? You get the good stuff, but you have to charge, and you have to think about how I'm going to manage my resources. That's the way I would design her, and I think it would fit along with the way she really wants to play. And I would make her better. It would make the game more interesting. Because right now, dude, I don't remember the last time. Not as much anymore because I've been focusing on Tekken. Occasionally, I play a little bit of Street Fighter, but I don't remember the last time I even fought a Tanya. It's just like in rank, right? I just don't remember.
Yeah,
She's
no.
incredibly rare, right? So obviously this character needs help, and yeah, I would give her, um, those buffs. I would buff Peacemaker a little bit as well, not to the obnoxious state that he was before, but I think he's a character who could use some help. Um, like maybe buff some of the, these so-called zoning defensive types just to even the playing field, against Cyrax, against T1000, against Havoc, these type of characters who are more or less, they're not dominating the meta, but they are winning for the most part, right? So do you agree with my assessment? Do you think I'm being biased? Because obviously I'm a more of a zoning defensive player. I made
Hmm.
top 8 with Freddy, so obviously I have a different perspective than especially a lot of these players, the youngest players who are even younger than you are. They have a different perspective of zoning and defense. Am I being reasonable or
So
unreasonable?
I do think. Well, I think they're just really careful with how zoning, how strong zoning is. Of course, with the exception of right now Sector, um, she's just really strong as a zoner because also her rush down's insane. But it's I think they're just really careful with zoning, and I agree with that because they don't want another situation. Well, we've seen what happens when like Prime Peacemaker. It was that was definitely a problem that had to be addressed. And it's also why I think they're with Quan Chi, like it's crazy. It's crazy how polarizing Quan Chi is because you can think he's the worst character in the game, but if you fight a good Quan Chi and have like and they play like really good, and then you're stuck with Armor Portal, you may think he's like the most broke character in the game. He's very polarizing. And I think also for that reason why he's like they're really careful of what to give and not to give. For me, they barely gave him anything because it doesn't help the weaknesses. His weaknesses are the biggest in the game because if you can see the frame data of each character, they're more or less like this, almost the same kind of stream, balanced within the cast, with the exception of like Liu Kang with 6 frames, or we know about Garrus Poke. Garrus Poke is 7 frames, but it's one of the worst down ones in the game. I rarely use it, but more or less, a lot of the pokes and frame data is kind of balanced, except for Quan Chi. He has one of the most slowest buttons in the game, and that weakness alone really like keeps him back from even competing or being seen that much in pro play. Um, while I do think defense is good, I do like them taking like being careful with it because we've seen what happens when you have too many defense options. For example, MK11. Well, that game, you already know what happens when you get hit, break away. Um, when you're knocked down, there's so many options that it's like it was hard to cover a lot of them, and it wasn't really fun as the aggressor. So while I do like to play defensively and see defensive mechanics exist, I like the in between as well, where you can have some reward for being defensive, like flawless blocking. The fact that flawless blocking is still in the game and prevents meter gain is incredible. Like I'm really happy they brought it back. I love flawless blocking in this game, and I don't have up 2 or up 3, and I'm okay with that. And the game I feel is enough for me at least. There is a crazy rush down, but if you're able to just make the right read and get your space back out of the corner, it does feel rewarding to at least be a little more defensive and to okay, neutrals reset. There's no, you're not gonna come in again like year one, come in and then just mash armor. Because for me that made it more frustrating to be a defensive player during year one because there was no reward. So that back then there was like no reward for actually defending anything. If you remember, meter was gained even after you flawless blocked, and I'm like, what's the point of even like blocking well right now? I'm literally dying on block and I'm dying on hit, and they're safe, and they get to take their turn back. It's like it was definitely really frustrating. But we're leaning towards we're like okay now it's getting a little more balanced for rush down and defensive play, but not too much for me at least. On one side, I feel like if you're a good defense player, you can it definitely will show in my opinion. Of course there's T1 T1000. I think he's the exception to that rule because his mix is inc- uh, insanely incredible. You can't, you could be the best defense player, but you're gonna guess wrong. So it's all about preventing that situation from happening. We all know about a spike, which they addressed. Thankfully, I will give them props for that for addressing T1000 spike. So instead of it being kind of like a zoning war, so he's gonna be good rush down with an answer to zoning, but without being like brain like stupid. Because it being -29 was huge.
Franco, what do you stand on the every podcast we discuss this, which is just to get people's different perspective. What do you stand on this? Offense versus defense, rush down versus zoning, set play versus turbo. What do you stand on this issue? And how do you agree with what Guru is saying?
Yeah, I definitely agree with like obviously trying to like be careful with certain archetypes and play styles. Like God, I don't know how many blood vessels I popped playing MK11, getting frustrated with all the defensive options on wake up buttons, flawless block on hit, crushing blows, just doing all the damage for you. And oh God, yeah, I'm really glad that flawless block is the way it is in MK1 because the reversals just made it so obnoxiously annoying in MK11. And I'm really glad that flawless block in MK1 now negates meter build. So like not only are you immune to chip damage from a flawless block, but you're negating meter build, which it does hurt zoners, but every other area it's nice. It can help you like clutch out scenarios where you normally die from chip damage. Um, Obviously, I hope Quan Chi gets buffed and other zoners. I think he's the worst character in the game, and a lot of his weaknesses aren't really warranted, in my opinion, for his mediocre zoning, like his 900 health and 8 frame stand one and 10 frame pokes that are punishable by some characters. So um, I do think there's a bit of like hyper offense in the game and all that stuff, but that's I understand why they're trying to be careful with that stuff. Um, I do just wish jump kicks were a little weaker too, and that there was less invincibility frames on get up because I still feel that wake up buttons and jump kicks are a bit annoying, but it's not MK11 level of a problem. So um, yeah, like, I know we hash this topic with every episode, so that's where I'll just keep it brief on my end. So that's where that's how I stand on that issue.
I actually forgot to add about up block. I don't know why I forgot, but like up block, I'm happy up block exists. And and I agree with Franco. I do think I'm like, okay, now some of the jump kicks are kind of getting, it's kind of annoying to deal with. Thankfully, it doesn't, plague the cast. But the fact that we have up block also makes this so much better because you can tell. I mean, you can watch some of my matches. I also rarely jump. I jump when if I'm really making the hard read, but I rarely jump, and that's for good reason because we all now have more solid jabs or anti-air jabs and an option to completely punish jump ins from people to just jumping in all day. Oh, and I hated that so much from MK11 too. Like it really turned into a game I did not enjoy. I know at some point I really vouched for the game and defended it, but it really became something really frustrating for me. And just seeing them have these mechanics that make it fun to counterplay if you're a good player. If someone's impatient or someone's just jumping around, just doing jump kicks, at least there's an option to completely shut that down. And I hope that doesn't get touched as much. I know people have complained about up block in the past, but I feel like this is one of those mechanics where like if you're a good player, you don't need a jump. Like jumping should never be um, like a regular thing you do. And I don't want to see them go into a direction where jumps are now the strong thing because I think characters like T1s, like Cyrax, Johnny have like really obnoxious jump ins. But at least we have something to completely punish it. But as far as defense goes, that's also a reason why I do think it's more balanced because we have that as an option for defensively. We all thought like up block was going to be kind of like flawless blocking, but it was different in its own way. But for me, it's pretty good. There's not a lot of counterplay against it. It's more of like kind of read based, but again, like you shouldn't be jumping in general, especially if you're playing neutral.
Yeah, I just really wish that jump kicks had the hit reaction they did in MK9 and MKX because since the jump kick you follow with the hit advantage or the hit effect, like you sink into the ground rather than pause in midair like you did in the MK9 and X. So it makes conversions a lot easier and they're just harder to anti-air with jabs, and I don't like that aspect of them. I wish they were a little easier to stop with jabs. Like I want my MK9 anti-airs and jump kick meta back because I feel like there's still some robbery that happens from jump kicks, and it's super annoying because they're obviously very easy to enforce and easy to get a reward from in this game in MK11. Again, not it's not as severe as MK11's jump kicks, but I still think they're annoying enough to where I would address them.
I think it's fine. I don't think it's an issue, but I do see a trend where like okay, these jump ins are been getting a little like better and better. I mean Conan, they gave him two jump kicks. They gave him two jump kicks, one that reaches like insanely far, and one that just gives you like a ground bounce. For a combo, like a different hit
Yeah,
reaction.
like
Like, okay, that's cool, but like, can we like, I
yeah,
don't know,
it makes it
just
too
chill on the.
easy to like. It just makes it too easy to just not play neutral on the ground, and like T1000s is just jump 3-2 and it's easy to hit
Oh
confirm.
my
If
god.
anywhere you hit that jump kick, it's gonna combo into four
It
two, and I don't like that.
Yeah,
But
it's an OS because also his standing two is 9 frames. So, and it's plus. So if you block, if it's a deep jump and you block it, he gets standing two out. It jails into standing two. Or if he gets a hit, he gets a combo that's hit confirmable. And that's
yeah,
what I mean. It's like I see them go in this direction. I'm just like I don't like where that's going, and I hope it's not gonna be a thing for future DLC if we even get it this year.
yeah, I hope that doesn't continue either because it just makes it easier and scrubbier in my opinion. Like for the neutral game, like there's other characters that have it like Kung Lao and Katana and Smoke. Like if you block their jump kick and they do their follow up, because their air combo with the jump kick has like follow up normals. Like Smokes I think is jump 3-4-3. So if you block his jump three and they do 4-3 like the follow up, he'll get stand four if you block it and it jails. Katana she gets stand four because her air combo is jump 3-4, and Kung Lao I think gets stand four. But yeah, Rain he has jump 3-2. It auto corrects a stand two on block, but if it hits, then he gets a full combo. Um, Probably a little more resources than like T1000 would have to spend, but yeah, T1000 has the best like jump kick conversion for sure, and then Johnny is really good too. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, I really hope in the next game they make it to where the hit reaction just makes it's like MK9 MKX style to where they're stuck in the air, and the only way they can easily combo is if they do a super deep jump kick or if they have an aerial special.
I'm with Gro. I think the up block really helps against the jumping. I mean, especially if you played Mortal Kombat X. I mean, that was a complete disaster. Like it was so hard to anti-air people, especially after they had removed the armor. You know, a lot of the armor, like Tremor's, up punch, which was not even using a neutral. It was just used. At least most people use it. They use it as as an anti-air attack. So once they removed that, that was a pain in the butt.
Just to be fair though, MKX's jump punches were the problem, not the jump kicks. Just
Well,
to
yeah,
be
I'm just
just to be
yeah,
fair with that, yeah, the jump punches were obnoxious, but the jump kicks were fine.
yeah. I'm just talking about jumping in general. So even in Justice 1, oh my god, like people are just like you couldn't anti-air
Yeah.
a lot. So MK1, I think, has a good balance between, I don't want people to never jump. I know there's this notion in the FGC, oh my God, if you jump, you're like jumping is part of footsies. Like that's just reality. Again, I also think armor is part of footsies, and anything that's called, bypassing armor is part of footsies. I'm sorry, bypassing footsies is part of footsies. So I'm not against, oh my look, like it's part of I don't necessarily like it. I don't like Sub-Zero players randomly jumping to dive kick, and just getting a lucky hit, But again, it's part of a strategy. It's part of a gameplay style. It's part of player expression, and I generally believe it should be in the game, right? Because we want all gameplay styles, all skill levels represented, and this kind of adds to that factor. If somebody jumps like a cage and you read it, up block, you get a massive reward. If they happen to empty jump, obviously you can get punished. But then you go for anti-air. So there's maybe not necessarily the most in-depth mind game, but I do believe that the mind game exists, and I think it's fair and it contributes to the game. What do you think?
I think it needs to balance though. It's just we've seen what happens when jump ins go in like in the complete opposite direction of what we consider like enjoyable to fight against. I mean, I remember just Cabal. I'm like dealing with jumping mix ups is always kind of I always think is always the most annoying thing to deal with. I don't mind it if it's like okay, you have Kung Lao hat, you jump. I feel like that's intended. Same with Tremor, same with all these ambush cameos that help you, you know, do a safe like a safe jump or even safe jumps in general. I think those are all fine. The jumps that I don't like is just like okay, you jump and now it's really there's not a lot of options against it. There's not a lot of counterplay. The risk reward is heavily in their favor. That's when I think jump ins, don't don't serve the game in my opinion. And we're not there yet, but I'm seeing like little like tiny windows of that, like of MK11 and some of those jumps. It's just like if we didn't have up block, they would you would see it so much more in this game. So I just hope they're a little more careful with that. I don't think jumps shouldn't exist, but I just think they definitely have to be balanced in a way where if you're jumping, you're making a hard read, and it's also really risky. High risk, high reward. It should be low risk, super high reward, because that's when you get okay. I'm just gonna jump. There's no point in walking, moving forward, jumping in this arc, and now you're just gonna have to like, what are you gonna do? They definitely improved it from where we came from. So I mean, you're gonna have characters like Natara, who's always in the air, but like it's not as really as like obnoxious.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally think it's in a good state, but obviously people may, agree. I don't think jumping is too OP anyway. It's not what I would focus on in the game. Again, to me, I don't want to rehash the talking point. I just think certain defensive characters need to be slightly better. Um, Certain characters need a slight redesign, right? We wouldn't just buff Quan Chi without leaving the armor the same. I think that would be a massive mistake. I think armor needs to be nerfed, and he needs to be probably more like overall as a character. He needs better low pokes. He needs slightly better strengths. I wouldn't give him quote unquote laundry of buffs. Like again, I think that would be a major mistake, as we have found out from Tanya. You don't need a lot of changes to make characters bad. At the same time, you don't need a lot of changes to make characters good. Um, Havoc, if you look at it, I mean, he got buffs, but he got like what 4 or 5 really strong buffs. I mean, from like literally bottom five to like the arguably the best character game at some point, right? If he still
Right.
isn't. So the game, I don't think it's not that the balance is not that severe, and I think what people sometimes feel to understand is this, guys. 25 to 30% of the game is the same, right? If you pick Tremor, and you have some kind of synergy, well, you're probably spamming Tremor 25 to 30% of the time. So, and he's a, a meta cameo selection, right? So of course the character's gonna be good, right? Or at least they can be only so bad in certain ways, right? It's common sense, right? So if you have good synergy, especially with a top tier cameo, even if your character has major weaknesses, is not that strong, they're still gonna be viable, right? Just because of the way the cameo system works, and it's more or less like a universal mechanic, like a hit system with Tekken, or like a drive system in Street Fighter, right? Those mechanics are all very strong. They're universal, and the cameo system is really no different. Like it's just kind of like it's a very strong universal mechanic that essentially almost everybody in the game can take advantage of. Not necessarily on, on equal terms, but on still viable, powerful terms.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you about. We're gonna. I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about who you think are Gear's worst matchup. Then I want to do a slight topic after that, and then we'll wrap it up. Who do you think are Gear's worst matchup according
Um,
to your opinion?
that's a good question because you know, I did think it was Sector, but I feel like after just evaluating playing against her, and I played it a few offline as well. Um, I do think at least I have some form of counterplay. Actually, the biggest counterplay that really not everyone has. I don't know if Quan Chi might be able to do punish it. Actually, is punishing the her armor teleport. He can actually punish it if she does armor teleport like full screen. Like she goes full screen, she's punished by snap. It's actually insanely huge in that matchup, and like again, not I don't know who else can even do that other than maybe Quan Chi. And it's like for me, after that, I'm like, okay, maybe this matchup feels bad, but it's not as bad as like I originally first I thought when I first played. I do think his worst is probably Takeda. I do think Takeda is really bad. Um, as the thing is, a lot people are now figuring out how to fight against Rewind. It's which is a lot of people's when they fight Garrus, they don't like. I think that's one of the least things people like about fighting him is the just the breaking out of the combos with one bar. Takeda has combos, so not only he can OS his combos to make it so you can't break out of it. If you break it, he blocks it, and then you're back in the same situation. Except now you don't have hourglass, and you're down a bar. And he hits like a truck with jacks for two of your life. Has real mix ups with his kunais and can actually zone him out really well because of how fast his kunais are and how good the recovery is on his air when he throws his air kunais. He like that in combination like going in on him, not risking getting hit for 50%. And he has grab combos when the combination of his combos are insanely difficult to break against. I do think he's like one of the like worst matchups to fight so far at least. Because
Just real quick,
the game changing, I feel like his matchups changed a lot. I'm
who are
sorry. Go
some like
ahead.
players that, no, I'm also sorry for interrupting. Who are some like players that you have fought since you've been traveling so much? I'm curious which players you have fought, maybe especially ones that are not from the US that you think, oh my god, okay, my mind got changed and this is crazy.
Yeah, Lavender Rain. I mean, like you can watch the tournament set, and like yeah, he beat me 3-2. It was a close set, but it's just like, I mean, if you watch the set, like he dashed through. I mean, a lot of other characters can do this, but he dashed through my mid, which is like my strong mid, my forward one. He's blocking my what do you call it? My I'm drawing a blank. Oh, my rewind. He's blocking my rewind. Okay, so now I can't break. He's armoring it. Of course, that's a read, which is fine. But it's really hard to negate this kind of high damage. And of course, and not to forget, he has a really strong jump in, super plus. Like he can hit it and dash in and then combo. That tells you how plus it is. But yeah, I fought Lavender Rain and I'm just like, and I fight Hayate. And Hayate's really strong. But when I fight like other Takedas like Zyshok or Lavender Rain, offline, and if I'm like struggling offline against it, I'm like, okay, this matchup is not easy because usually if you're there is matchups do change if you're playing online or offline, even by like some frame differences, which is the difference for you fuzzy blocking a mix up. It makes it really significant. If I'm struggling offline, like I definitely for me it tells me like okay this matchup is not easy at all. It's not easy at all, and I feel like that's one of the characters where I'm like, okay, maybe he's not bad because if you do rush him down, his armor is not good. I will say his armor is not good. So if you can actually have a good round against him, if you have him in the right situation in the corner, but it's still not an easy matchup in my experience. A close one for me is also General Shao, just because of the amount of health. And again, he has a lot of health, and once he goes in, gets you with all the mix. If you break, you need to have a good break, and you can't get hit. I just feel like for the sheer numbers, it makes that matchup kind of hard. And he has ways to go against the zoning with sector and such, sector and at least using tremor for health.
Yeah, I think the annoying thing about Shao outside the health too is armored knee now can full combo tick throw on an armor.
Oh
Like if
yeah.
he armors the gap, since they made armor not be affected by or command grabs not count as a hit towards armor. So pre-patch he wouldn't be able to do armored knee to punish the command grab and launch, but after that change, he can do that now. So and it kind of sucks because Ford 1-2 also gets punished on reversal knee since it's minus 14, I think, and knee is 10 frames. So if he sees Ford 1 chances are if he does reversal knee, he's gonna get the punish somehow. The only way you can stop that from happening is just doing forward one stagger, or I think forward one time stop might be a true block string, and you can like try to bait the buffering armor.
I'm glad that armor's a high because if it was a mid, it would be over. Yeah, I totally forgot about the armor change. That definitely affects that matchup. Um, but it's pretty annoying. But I still think Takeda is just as annoying, just because of also the normals too. Like his long normals, because Garrus's armor is stationary. You can't. You have to go in. Like there's no other way to. You have to dash in. You can't armor those gaps. So if he gets you in the corner, he's really can. He can just. He has a lot of more options with less risk with his normals than he normally has with other characters that have gap closers like Baraka or Raiden.
Oh yeah, and what cameo was? I think Lavender Rain used Jax.
Jax, yeah, he used
Is
Jax.
that like the standard cameo pick for
It
Takeda usually?
Yes, usually they used to run Sector, but usually Jax has been the main one just because the throws and the damage output, and also the pressure being able to cancel into the wave punch, which is now it's plus. It's like plus
Yeah.
7, so it's good in the corner. And now with the new tech with the gotcha grab, that reminds me, another thing about the matchup. So yeah, gotcha grab, even though it can grab cameos and it states in the move list that it doesn't affect Motaro or Goro, however, it still hits them out. So what if you see in the matchup, what Lavender does in the matchup, which is very significant, is that he uses Gotcha Grab to interrupt the Motaro pressure. So it pauses. So normally I loop the pressure into a tail shot into another one, do something to make to restart that pressure again. What Gotcha Grab does is now completely pauses that flow, that offensive sequence. So now I don't have a cameo to really work with for a few seconds, which is very like it's actually so huge too. Um, which is like I think, well, if other people can use Jack's cameo, it benefits them. But this is especially good just for Takeda because again, if I'm pressuring him in the corner and his armor is bad, he doesn't have many options to go off. So he has to use Gotcha Grab to stop my flow of pressure. And now I have to operate without Motaro, which it's not optimal at all. I think I think Garrus as a character is very reliant on his cameo. You can make an argument for a lot of characters in this game, but I since playing him since the beginning, I still feel this way because he was relevant in year one because of how strong Kung Lao was. And that's what kept him in the meta. When they nerfed Kung Lao, if Motaro didn't exist, he would straight up just be bottom tier in my opinion.
Yeah, sometimes I think Garrus is riding off the hype of Motaro, even though Garrus should, uh, or I'm sorry, Motaro is like the the big part of the team instead of Garrus being like the centerpiece. That's how strong I think Motaro is with him. But and like you said with the Jax gotcha grab stuff, like for example, Johnny Cage Jax isn't a very meta pick. Like if you pick Jax with Johnny, you're probably just using it to use gotcha grab stuff, and that's really it. But because Takeda's main cameo is Jax for other reasons besides gotcha grab, like you get extra 100 health, throw combos, and the pressure from Purple Punch. So like I haven't played the matchup enough yet to especially like at the Lavender Rains level. But I have it at 5-5 at the moment. But I could definitely like just debating like with words and stuff like. Um, and you have more matchup experience than I do in that specific matchup. Like the match starts, we're at a 20 health deficit for using Motaro
Yep.
against Takeda Jack, so we're forced to get in. So like, I can see that being bad for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
play Psyshock, because because of Demoralize, he has like Garrus experience. You won't you won't know how bad it is until you play him, and then like, okay, this does not feel good. You, trust me, if you play him, I think he'll definitely change your mind. Um, I I also at one point thought it was 5-5. It's not. I don't want to call it 7-3 yet, just because we again there's still a chance if you corner him in the right times, or if you use snap. If you have snap, he can't recklessly throw out back two in neutral. But I still think if he just gets the hit, it's real tough with especially with the HP and the lack of rewind options.
so far you said Takeda and Shao.
As far as worst matchups,
List them all.
okay. So sector, of course. The grenades just being hella strong. I do think the fact that for me, Motaro can't really do much for that against it. Just makes that matchup kind of suck because she's always in the air. Is really tough for him to get her out unless you have snap. Snap is really important, and she really doesn't have to worry about it as much if she's able to time her projectiles well. So it's really off a read, like one read, and you also need snap to counter the armor. So it's for me, it's the mind game, but it's more favored towards sector because of her options for both rushdown and zoning, and she doesn't really have to interact with Garrus as much. This is why I think she's bad. I think Cyrix is also kind of bad, because Garrus is very, very resource heavy, and I mean we all know Cyrax, Serena, and Nat. It's like just one hit, one mistake, one hit, and you're kind of cooked. Stationary armor, you can't really move out of the bombs. You really have to make like a hard read, and you can't lose neutral. You can't lose the neutral again. So I think that matchup is not insane. It's doable, but again, don't get hit. You kind of have to treat it like Kenshi without it being Kenshi. Because Kenshi is funny. Kenshi's always been a good matchup for us. Funny enough, and it's actually hilarious that Kenshi was Gara's favorite for a long time because of how rewind worked, because of how rewarding it is to get out of Sento pressure. Where Cyrax, she doesn't really like. Really, if you get out of the pressure, you're back to neutral. Like she doesn't really lose it. Like she doesn't lose much. Yeah, she has to hit you again, but it's not like she's not that hard. Like her normals aren't that bad, and she has at the end of the day, she has a command grab that's a 50-50. Paired
Yeah,
with like,
her stuff
yeah,
isn't tied to a stance like Sento. Like she doesn't have to change something in order to get access to something. So like it's just in her base kit, you know. That's all it is.
yeah, it's more layered too. So it's like it's hard for me at least. It's harder to defend against. I mean, if you hit her, like again, if you hit her, as far as hitting Sento, like the Sento goes away. The bombs do not. If they're already laid on the ground. So that combined, I think now because Garrus plays the same game against her, against like everyone else, I do think it's kind of like not. It's not really a good matchup in my opinion. Um, Funny enough, I think T1000's even. I think because he has a way to punish the spike is good. So people may think it because T1000's high up that he's like a bad matchup, but I think he's even. Ghostface I think is kind of bad. Only alone like he can't use. I mean, you can't use rewind when you're getting hit by his knife. Um, it sucks. It really sucks because things like that just completely negated. You can't really use your tools. It's nice to have a counterplay, but it's like to the detriment of your character. It's actually kind of crazy. Um, he's just in a stance, and I have to hold this, and I can't rewind. It's like it's insanely significant. I don't know what else to say about that. Like his normals are really good. He can dash through the mid pretty well because I believe him and Takeda have like a little teleporting block. I just saw this on Twitter that Conqueror posted, and I'm like, I always thought that was weird because I always felt like they were able to dash forward one way easier, or the forward one stream way easier than other characters, and I was wondering why, but I guess that video explains of how their block and unblocking works. Um, I think Scorpion's pretty bad. I think Scorpion, just because of Farah alone, Scorpion and Farah, because of back three, you can't. I mean, it's mix you have to hold. You can't armor it like other characters that can gap close. And if you notice, there's a trend. It's like stationary armor, and it's like it really hurts him. Like I won't lie, it really hurts him, because I mean, at least with Homelander, he has Farah to cover him when he armors, but that having a bad defense option like that makes fighting these characters much harder. Um, with Farah, like you're playing rock paper scissors that he doesn't have to like. It's high risk. Oh, I'm sorry. Um, Low risk, high reward for Scorpion because of he's able to mix you a Farah at a distance with back three. And then you have to go in on him, and he has options with teleport and spear against him being able to play lane. That's one of the matchups you can't really play lane. I think that's it as far as like real bad matchups. I'm looking at the cast now. Oh, Conan might be bad. To be honest, I have to play a little bit more. I haven't I need to play more Conan games before I can say he's like bad, but he doesn't exactly feel that good because of the damage output, and his normals are just so much better than Garrus. He can easily punish sweep. You have to rush him down, and he has like three armor options, and depending on the cameo, it makes it safe. So it's kind of hard to pressure him. But I'd have to play that match more before I can give my final verdict. But for me, Conan doesn't seem as good. I think
Yeah,
Smoke's bad too.
yeah. Well, let me, if I may,
Yeah,
I
of course.
think like Ghostface is another incredibly frustrating character. So, with all due respect, that's when like, for example, when you say defense is strong in this game, I just don't see it because like it doesn't matter what your defense is because you're essentially just guessing. Like, it's not a matter of oh look, you can react to the throw. Like essentially, it's a back row style vortex. Obviously, Ghostface is not as good as Batgirl was in Justice One, but it's just like even if by some miracle um, T1000 or Cyrus get nerfed, people are just gonna pick up, another Vortex character, and then you're gonna have to guess. Right now, they don't use him because T1000 and Cyrus are just better, right?
Mhm.
The same thing with you know, Kenshi's not better, but we know what he can still do. So essentially, you're just getting looped to death, and it's just very, very difficult to defend against this stuff unless you have safe armor or you have launching armor, to kind of even the playing field a little bit. And it's just, I don't mind that type of stuff being in the game because I think everybody should be able to express themselves and play the gameplay stuff they want to play. But I'm of the opinion is that, okay, you want me to play like this, or you rather want me to play against this? I want safe armor. Like I want to make you get uh, get it. I've pretty much given up on zoning. It's a lot more weaker, and I think it should be that way in the modern FGC and in the modern fighting game meta. But I feel like, look, you want to be able to get in, mix me up with the Cyrax stuff for like 30 seconds, or the Kenshi stuff, or the Ghost Face stuff. Then yeah, I think you should be able to deal with my deal with my defensive options. Should be able to break me down and right now I just don't see it. I don't think I think the game with the meta is pretty straightforward as far as how strong offense is. And I know I keep talking about this, but I really, 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 really hope and that they buff some of those characters. You mentioned Smoke. I think he's another annoying ass character, and I don't see how he's weak. Because
Yeah.
you are
Yeah.
guessing. Like, you are guessing nonstop. You're guessing. Again, it's fine. I want the Smoke players to do well, and I want them to be able to mix me up. However, if you want to be able to do that stuff, then yeah, you should deal with some type of oppressive defense as well. Not to that extent. There needs to be a balance, and I agree with you that we don't want too strong of zoning, too strong of defense. But if I have resources and I manage them right, kind of like you do with gears, then yeah, you should respect what I have to do. I'm gonna make you hold down back, and you need to respect that. Otherwise, you don't get hit. Right now, I don't see too much that in the game, and I think the results, with some exceptions like Sector, like you placing well with gears, for the most part, I mean, we see what people are doing. T1000 for whatever that stupid string is, non-stop guessing, 50-50. Cyrex, we don't have to talk about. She's essentially everywhere. Um, Havoc mixes you up just by you blocking. Like it's a 50-50. Yeah, you can fuzzy guard it, but they can delay, they can throw you, etc., etc. That stuff is what's winning at almost every level. And it's far more common than Geras, than Sector, than Kung Lao. The characters that are supposed to be more on the defensive and zoning end. So uh, I want to ask you what you would like to see in the next patch. I don't think it's
Mm.
going to happen this week, from at least from the lack of communication.
Um, well, it might happen because we had a similar patch just before Texas Showdown, which was I believe the Tremor patch. Funny enough, so I'm actually wouldn't be surprised if it does happen tomorrow, where it's something that kind of changes the game. I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of big changes in the middle of the season. Because of it doesn't really incentivize you to keep playing um your character, or like trying to learn a new character for the season. Uh, but I do like the direction they're going with. Because we know about Homelander and how strong he was on release, and he's still a strong character, but he's not. I feel like he's now at a place where, like, okay, he's not stupid, like broken like he was in the first one. He's strong, and strong characters are okay to just exist. And he's not exactly, for me, in my opinion at least, not an easy character to do well with, because you need the execution now, and your neutral still has to be pretty good with him. Yeah, you can mix with him, but if you mess up and he doesn't have really good defense options, his down one is not super good, and his armor is not that good. Um, but yeah, I don't want to see too many changes. I do think there should be fine tuning some of the super strong characters like T1 and Cyrax. Um, maybe Sector, but not to the point where, like, okay, now it's like we're Tanya. Like, Tanya, for me, I think they just flopped Tanya. I never want to see that for a character, and I hated fighting Tanya. It's one of the characters I hated fighting in season one.
Okay.
um but I can sympathize with people playing with her. I'm like, okay, now I can't even play this. I can't play this character because she's not good at anything else. Her movement sucks. Her resource building is just not worth it. It's not worth slowly building that to use only once in the game. And there's not a lot of ways to build it up. They just gotta work on some of these reworks for getting these characters to, okay, now you can actually play them. They have their own identity. I see where they were going with Kenshi, but you see how significant dropping the Sento timer, even just 5 seconds, was like affected the character, but it wasn't enough for him to compensate, to keep, in my opinion, to keep playing in the meta, because people are already playing better against Sento or figuring out how to fight him. So you're combining that nerf with players being better against it, made no one, like, he's a high effort, for me, high effort mid tier character now. I do, same with Garrus. Like, I think he's high effort mid tier. I do think he's rewarding when you can play well with him, but no one's gonna do that, and that's fine. Like, you don't have to play every character. You play what you enjoy, or play what's strong. But I do think they still need to add quality of life changes, like adding moves, or like fine tuning some of the frame data. I don't know. Look, I don't know why Garrus's frame data is just so. It's just all over the place. Like, there's some of his strings aren't even plus. I I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me. For a year, we had one of his strings be minus 12, minus 14, I believe, or minus 12 on hit. He was punishable on hit. And I'm like, why was this there for so long? It feels like this is in beta. And there's moves where he's negative. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know what characters like for that exist. Like little things like that, I wish they would, take more care of, because I feel like those little things kind of really matter to make it, you know, a compact deal for people playing, the game. In my opinion,
Yeah,
it's just it's
Ford 2
yeah.
and Ford 2.4 are both -2 on hit, and I don't know why they still are.
It doesn't make sense for me on why it's like that, and I just wish it's yes, it's an invisible change to the casual eye, but right now it's like it doesn't. Whatever the casual is gonna play any character, it doesn't matter. So why not just help, or at least cater to the competitive scene a little bit with these changes to make them more fun to play, to open up more opportunities for combos. They are doing that, like adding more combo opportunities like Reiko's overhead, Noob's overhead, well, which is good. But I would like to see more of that instead of just now if we're nerfing top tiers again, the game's gonna be stale. If we're just nerfing whatever is stronger instead of we're okay, let's see what's wrong with this character. Let's see what we can adjust to make him more fun to play, which is what they did with Garrus. Which is now okay. Now I can. There's a reason to use clone because now his overhead pops up for a combo in regular and sand clone. So now I actually have super good mix-ups, and I can combo off my cameo, which he couldn't do that before, and it was a super unsafe overhead that didn't lead into anything. So I just want to see more of that, to be honest, instead of just okay, we're just gonna nerf him and a few changes and that's it. Because I find the game more exciting when there's like, oh wow, this cameo got buff and nobody's using, and oh my god, this new change is like really cool. For like a new property on hit for this character. Now, oh wow, Bone Cage can now do damage over time. That's no one has damage over time. Like no one has the damage over time moves in this game except for a very very few, which is good because they're careful with it because we've seen what happens when it's not balanced in MK11 as an example.
Yeah,
But
one.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was gonna say yeah. But that's my current thoughts of what I expect
Yeah,
or what I want.
I really hope they give Garrus a down one, and I hope that they address those quality of life changes like the negative on hit shit. And I would like to see if you interrupt his command grab with like meter burn sand pillar, to have the Cyrax animation when she like interrupts her command grab with a bomb. Like I think that's what he should get if he interrupts a meter burn sandstorm because like sandstorm,
Ooh,
especially
yeah.
meter burn sandstorm, is like pretty useless. And like
Don't get me started on that,
sandstorm
bro.
is like way too risky of a move for the little reward it usually gets in neutral. And like it doesn't have a set or fixed hit advantage, so like you can anti-air somebody with sandstorm, and like you'll get no height on hit from it, and there's like no like hit advantage to it at all. So like I feel like the sandstorm hit advantage should be fixed, or at least not scale negatively if you anti-air with it.
It's so bad. See,
It's
that's the one thing that was hard for me transitioning from MK11 Gears to MK1. I'm just like, this sandstorm is so bad that it's like it's literally killing me. And I don't understand why. Because the thing is, it's a launcher, but there's no guarantee that it will launch for towards you because it depends on their position on the stage when it hits. So not only is it high recovery, super negative on block, this does not compare to Spike because even at least Spike has useful. It can low profile. It can beat pokes. You know, it has a more reliable hit because it's a traveling projectile. It's not a where like it's in one place and then if they jump over it or if they're behind it, it whiffs. If they're in front of it, it's a traveling projectiles and it's a low. And his EX version is a 7 frame Punisher. which is super huge for characters with -7. Like they can't even use that string without the risk of getting punished if you have meter. Well, but what does EX stand for? And this is what I mean by like quality of life, because what why am I doing EX Sandstorm? I'm not doing it for the clock because it gives me one, and it doesn't give it to me until it goes away or it activates. Um, and it only gives me one clock when I can just use it to charge up fully, get my clock, and I have access to one of the best special moves, arguably in the game, because it's tied behind a resource. Why would I use EX Sandstorm? Because when it's active, now I can't use my pillar. I can't use my launcher if I get the hit. So and now I'm stuck using this move that I have to wait to let it time out. Yeah, you can use it for setup, but again, the reward is not. It's just not there. The reward is not
Yeah.
there for the setup. It's not worth doing than just doing a basic combo that like nets you like 42% to 50%.
Yeah, if you do meter burn sandstorm while it's ticking away, you're locked out of meterless sandstorm, and I'm just like, why?
It
Like
doesn't
that.
make sense. MK11 had a very similar functioning move, which is Sand Pillar. You can use Sand Pillar while you're using the EX Sand Pillar, and that was really good because okay, now I have this projectile will come after, and I can still zone you out with regular Pillar, which made it was awesome. But now I'm like, okay, this using this move is limiting my character, which it should be the complete opposite. Um, and it's like I hope that gets addressed. The down one, it's like okay, like I don't think they're gonna give him a down one. I've honestly fully accepted that, which is why you don't see me use it. I only use it if it's point blank, which I think that's what they intended. I think I don't know, considering some of his issues with regarding his frame data. But I just think he needs a little more work to make him feel like very complete. Um, and I think other characters need that kind of love too. But I feel this way, especially with Garrus, and I don't blame people for not really playing him because again, he's high effort. The weaknesses are there, like you can feel the weaknesses when you're playing that character. So you really have to play well with him.
Yeah, and not to make this like a sob story for Garrus, but like a lot of people like they're like, you have one bar breaker. It's so free.
Bro, I hate that
It's
shit
really
so
not free
much.
because you have a window you have to break away from. It's not frame one armor when you break away, so you could get stuffed, and it could just not connect. Like the blue orb that summons when he does the move, it could just not touch the opponent, and then they don't
Yeah.
become frozen. Then they have like 5 years to whiff punish your reverse time that has failed, and now you can't break again because you have no hourglass and you have you're short a bar. So a lot of
Yeah,
people like they really don't understand
they
reverse
don't
time at
understand.
all the time, and yeah, those would make like that would complete Garrus for me if they. I think, in my opinion, Ford 1-2 should be safe on block. Still have the armor gaps. Do that change with Meter Burn Sandstorm to have the hit reaction when you interrupt the command grab instead of knocking down, like you remain standing in that like dazed state like Cyrax and her bombs. The negative on hit stuff that shouldn't be negative on hit. Give him a down one. And yeah, I think he'd be complete after. Maybe address like frame data on Sandstorm, like maybe make it faster. Definitely make it safer.
Make it. I mean, look what they did
I,
with Kenshi.
I,
They made his projectile, his demon drop better. Frame data wise, like it wasn't like huge. Like it was enough where you could see, okay, it's definitely better because that's pushback, and it's not as crazy negative as it was before. I'm like, yes, let's do that. Let's do that with Garrus
and it's
because
the
I feel like
overhead
it's
too.
absurd. Yeah, it's over, and it launches because on EX. I'm like, can we let's please do that and apply it to these because the numbers just don't make sense.
Yeah, and like the
Yeah.
hitbox on it's horrible too. Like people literally like
Oh, you jump over it.
Sindel literally floated over my sandstorm one time, and I'm just like, dude, it's literally touching her. Like she's covered in sand and she's still floating. Like how did this not hit her? Like in MK11, the vertical hitbox was pretty good on it. The horizontal hitbox was pretty bad in MK11, but in this game, it's like the horizontal is like okay, but the vertical is, oh my god, it's awful. It's like
I will say,
it's not even a sandstorm. It's like a sand like wind. Like it's like just a poof.
yeah, I do want to acknowledge that he still has some strong stuff and stuff that I'm surprised they gave him. The fact that he can combo off his EX command grab, which is a mid for a bar. I was really surprised that stayed in the game. I'm like, I don't know what character can really do that, or at least from what I remember, comboing off their command grab on hit. I know Homelander can do it, but like, I mean, just like off
Reiko.
forward one. Uh, on hit, it works on hit as well.
Yes. It just costs 2 bars. Garrus is the only character with a 1 bar mid command grab.
Okay, I didn't know Reiko's combos his command grab on hit
You,
as well.
you would never
Um,
combo it on hit usually because he can't tick throw with his command grab. He has 0
I
tick
see.
throws. So like there's
I see.
unless you wanted to do super unbreakable damage from the get go, like 1-2 meter burn command grab from unbreakable or something, like you normally wouldn't do that just because he can't tick throw and block. He can only tick throw with his fatal blow.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, like I do want to acknowledge like he does have pretty like good stuff, so I don't want to seem like it's you know like the stuff I want to see exists. Like I don't want him of over buff. I just think there just needs to be some fine tuning, and that goes the same with like a lot of characters in this game as well. Just little stuff that just needs to be fine tuned to make it better. But
Yeah.
they're in the right direction because they have done it. Um, but I mean, we can go on a 10 for like Shujinko. Like I can see
Madam.
what they're doing with Shujinko, but I'm like, dude, like some of the specials just suck, man. Like for
Yeah.
some of the matchups, it's like I don't. It's hard for me to see him as like, are you trying to make this character good for like people to pick, or just a character just for like for fun, for videos, for people to just play around? From like, because that's the sense I get when I see a character like Shujinko. Very rare occasions for him to work, because like you is so polarizing in some of these matchups. I'm like, he gets a safe command grab mix against T1000. He gets like really broke combos with a Takeda that are like half your health. But then like you get characters like Melina where it's like what do I like what am I really getting? I'm just getting size, unsafe ball, and that's it. Is like limiting. I do think I hope they balance him. At least give properties to his forward throw. They can just do so much more to make him a lot more interesting than just okay, I'm picking Shujinko for only this matchup.
Yeah, I think the same could be said about Madame Bo too, like who I like to call Madame Blow because she sucks. Uh, like I don't know. I think her slide is like the only good thing about her, like the slide into the fist flurry. I think her drinking gimmick is just not at all rewarding enough, and I was excited to use her
No,
too,
I
but
mean, yeah, me too.
the execution of the character, like the risk and like the effort and the reward just do not match at all. It's like you have to put in so much work into Madame Bo and Shujinko just to get like little to no results, like or like reward for using her. It like almost kind of reminds me of how Shang Tsung is kind of like I feel like Shang Tsung's like mid tier, but you have to put in so much effort just to use them, and
Yeah,
at
combos
best he's
and
mid tier.
yeah, yeah. I was yeah. I'm disappointed with Madame Bo. I was hoping, like the thing is, the only character I feel like she really pairs well with is, Sarax and Smoke, and that's it. Like she doesn't again like the drinking doesn't really offer as much as I thought it would. And also because the dash cancel is very resource heavy, you lose all your drinks and for a bar for the dashes. I can see why they did it because I feel like there's so many possibilities with characters we haven't seen yet. So I understand why they haven't like it's very expensive, but it's just in general. I just think the character I don't know. It's just not what I was like hoping for, or at least I don't not as interesting I thought she would be. But I'm glad she's in the game, and I'm glad they're adding more cameos. Um, even though it was a kind of a miss for me, I hope they keep adding more cameos. Stuff with like more interesting gameplay concepts. Like, okay, now this opens up so many options for a lot of characters. With this unique property, like the Farah jump applying to area if you're in the air is I think that's like it's a genius idea because of like it really depends if your character can go in the air like that, and it's like what other cameo is going to do that for you. So I'm really interested in what they can cook up if there's more cameos down the line. Um, I do want to see that for the game, or I do want to also see I do I want to see if how have a future where like okay I'm Garrus and I have like 5 cameos to pick from. And I don't want to feel like I'm stuck with Motaro, despite how strong Motaro is and really fun. 900 health does not feel good to play with. If I'm honest, it's really fun to play with a higher health, but his higher health cameos aren't as good. So I really do hope maybe if I have more options, if they do something or they give him something to make him more fun with other cameos.
Yeah, I think you're gonna be waiting for that for a very long time. I
Oh
just,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I like I've been waiting a year already, and I'm still playing the same cameo.
I mean, most characters are essentially using one or two cameos, right? And I'm sure there are some exceptions, and uh, those exceptions we already kind of know, right? But for the most part, if you're using T1000, you're probably using Mavado. If you're using Sector, you're probably using Motaro. If you're using Kung Lao, you're probably using Sector, right? So um, there's usually one cameo that's clearly the best, and maybe you can use another or two. If you want to give your opponent a different perspective, or if you want to get, if you want to maybe counterpick, or depending on the matchup. I just don't think the game will ever be. I think the system is inherently flawed, and um, it doesn't work. If you want the balance, right? If I'm saying if you want the balance in terms of like variety, in terms of I want to be able to use my character 5 different cameos. Well, that's not really the game. But the game again is super balanced. It's very fun to watch, and um, it's very fun to play. I know again cameos are limited, but I think that's just really the name of the game. But I do kind of want to wrap it up with this topic. I think I'm looking at this Tekken patch. I know you guys don't play it. It's like 90% of the nerfs. I hate patches like that. I know
Hmm.
Tekken is in a very different situation, but I don't want to see the stuff for like Mortal Kombat. The reason I play this game because I think they kind of removed the brain dead stuff that we all kind of agreed, made the game boring, and they have wisely buffed most of the characters in the game, uh, most of the cameos in the game. I mean, you guys remember like pre patch Montaro, he was completely fucking useless, right?
Oh my
Um,
god, so bad.
Sonya was so
So
useless.
bad.
Yeah, these cameos did essentially nothing. I mean, they were just in the game to look pretty on the cameo select screen. So I believe the game is much better when stuff is buffed. With some nerfs when it's warranted. We can, and we already have discussed Cyrax and what we want to do, and stuff like that is fine. But I think in general, if you want to keep the interest in the game, I think you still have to mostly buff. They've been very slow at it, and I completely understand because games like Tekken 8, maybe they did too many buffs too fast, and the community was on fire. But I don't think anybody will make the case that NRS is, making too many changes too fast, right? I don't think that's Mortal Kombat one at all. So, for me personally, whatever happens with the DLC. I think that's essentially beyond everybody's control. But I think we can kind of convince the lovely people at at NRS to say, look, man, can we get a better Tanya? Can we get a better Peacemaker? Can we, maybe get a better Frost or etc. And I think that's going to result in a more interesting game than just like okay, let's nerf T1000 to crap, let's nerf Cyrax to crap, and then just kind of shifts the meta and makes the game kind of boring.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, no.
yeah, I think that's kind of why I still play this game while I still watch it, and I think there's generally evidence then when characters are stronger just like at Evo, again, Evo just happened. Tekken 8's supposed to be this trash game. I watched it, super diverse. I mean, super diverse. The game looked great. Um, and I think it's the same. Again, a lot of people crying in the MK community about Mavado, nerf this, nerf that. But when you watch the game again, like I don't understand how you can make the case that the game is unbalanced, that the game is not fun to watch when you see all this diversity. I think we should not necessarily go what people say because I think we're all kind of biased to some extent. But when you look at the results, that tells you what the game is and what it isn't, especially at the highest level of play. When money and pride is on the line. Girl, what say you?
Oh, no, I definitely agree. I mean, if I recall correctly, I believe every pro pro tour tournament had a different character. Um, I'm trying to remember Mexico. I know it was different characters in top eight. No, I think it was back to back Sindel. So my mistake on that. Back to back Sindel, but then we have Cyrax and then we have Sector. Um, but I do think it's like, yeah, it's all different. The complaints I do see a lot online, and I do wish we as a community. I mean, it's the same conversation we've had for past like NRS titles. It's just the complaining, just people complain about it until that's it. Like people just stop playing the game when we now have a solid game in our hands, and I do see where it's not. There is a side that we're not. They don't complain as much. I do think like Latin community, they've just been they're just really good at the game and they play the game. I've rarely heard them complain about really the state of the game. They were very excited, for the people visiting the country, the community, and playing with each other, and and that positivity too, the passion was there. I just wish we would have that focus on that again. And there's always going to be something that frustrates us in the game, but it's like I think we're in a way better spot than we were around like two years ago with this game. And I really hope that NRS can break the cycle finally. I know we all hope, it's business, but I hope they break the cycle finally to get and just keep putting more resources in this game, because I do think this game deserves it. From what we had in launch till now, I think this game really deserves a chance to stick around for a couple years, because while the concept of the cameo system and the assist based system is new for NRS, they played around with it in MK11 like hours of time. I do think they have something really solid on their hands, and again, the diversity with these tournaments really tell you what's going on. I mean, we had the Coliseum. We have, I believe Mari won. I didn't see them at set, but Mari won with Quan Chi for like grand finals, and like you don't see that. And if you're a good player with a solid cast of characters, you can make it work. It's really all about how can you improve yourself as a player, or at least in this meta, for you to compete with top players. For me, I think I just think my time with Garrus and my time with playing, as the meta shifts, is just paying off. Really, to be honest, um, just because of the changes and what was really problematic in the meta. Okay, now I'm able to play how I really want, without like the 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 things that were like kind of harming the game's, at least the game health. So I do think it's in a really good spot, and I don't want them. Like you mentioned Tekken, I'm like, wow, we can be Tekken right now, and people love that game, and people is always like, memed on us, or made fun of us, and this is like the superior game. And look how quickly, I've never seen a community turn on a game so quickly like Tekken, the Tekken 8 patch. I'm like, I really don't want us to go, to be there, and I hope the devs are looking or learning from that. And I do think they do learn from each other, because we were once like, okay, we're the best in terms of content for what a fighting game should be. And I think that the other devs for like Street Fighter and Tekken, I'm like, okay, they see Mortal Kombat success and they built up off of that, and then we should be going in that direction. But and us as a community, we should also be growing as well. Not only as players, but just people, advocating for the community, for people to play our games. I do think more people should be able to play our games, and I'm also grateful why I have MK and J as a local, because we have a solid number of people who love playing the game and want to get better at it, and that you can't say the same for that for other places anymore. Locals aren't as common as they used to be because back then locals is what people had, and online wasn't as good. So the future looks a lot more brighter than what it was, and I just hope it just keeps going that way.
That's a good way to wrap it up, and to to conclude the podcast. Um, I generally want to thank you, for being a part, for coming on this podcast. Again, I generally believe you're one of the best players. You're just very fun to watch, and and honestly, above all, you're just a good human being. I would generally mean that. Like a lot on the FGC, especially the way people. Again, I've been guilty of this when I was younger. People really conduct themselves in like very toxic ways, but you've always been one of the premier people as far as how do I conduct myself when I'm a high level player, when I'm on Twitter. I think you are the model when it comes to appropriate behavior. uh, Again, nothing but respect for you, my dude. I always enjoy watching you. You're a great player. You're a great human being, and I really hope that you have a safe trip when you're traveling to Europe again. Of course, we wish you
Thank
the
you.
best. Yeah, we wish you the best in terms of your trip, the best in terms of results, and we want to succeed. And you've already succeeded, so we just hope you continue. You continue the good stuff, and you keep placing, man, because you 100% deserve it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm about the. I'll say some things too. I also hope there's more content left for the game too. Like, I would love to keep playing this game because I haven't enjoyed a game like this since probably pre hotfix MKX. Uh, so what is that like? Damn near 10 years. um, I didn't really enjoy MK11 as much, but yeah, I just the growth of MK1 and the potential it could have to just grow even more, and like now we have this rivalry between NA and Brazil. Like it's going to be a super fun thing to watch in the future, and I hope we get to see more of that. Hopefully, get some of the Mexico and Brazil scene up in NA maybe. Gotta try to compete with them now because they're catching up. And I also am just trying to, like I said, safe travels to you, as Dave said, and I'm obviously going to try to work on my Garrus because I want to try to creep up on the Garrus results too. But so far, you got all the Garrus results, and I'm behind in that regard, so I gotta take some notes. And don't get our character nerfed too. Don't do too well.
I try, bro, dude. They always joke. It's like, damn, he got top eight. We're never getting buffs. Though we people in the Garrus Discord, we're always joking about that, man. I mean, look, if they do, they do, right? I can't control how I do. I just play it and see where I go, and then go from there. Dude, but well, I feel like hey, I've been kind of doing one, and they still buffed him, so I'm like, all right, I have hope. I have some hope, but I'm not
Nah,
gonna
I
bank
think
on that.
I think Garrus should be safe. I think if they're nerfed, I just don't see it. He's not a character. First of all, he's not a brain dead character. Like very few people place with him. He's super uncommon. That's because he's arguably one of the most involved characters in the game. I personally couldn't play a character like that. I think it's above my league. I think he's a specialist character, which is not that common in the current like general fighting, right? Because a lot of people they just tier horror, but he's not necessarily a character you can just pick up and play, right? He's just like all work, maybe more work than he's worth it. But I think that's the reason why he's probably safe from nerfs, and also another reason why a lot of people respect the way you play. Um, but I'm gonna wrap it up here. Um, Again, thank you so much for Gur for coming on the podcast. Of course, as always, thank you for King Junior for hosting and recording this podcast. Hopefully, you guys in listen and you enjoy, please let us know what you think in the YouTube comments, because we always read them, and we take your feedback into consideration, and we shall see you in the next episode of the Nexus podcast. Thank you everybody so much for listening.
Thank you very much.